How's it going, everybody? Top of the morning, and welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I am Ryan Kairalla, and it's a pleasure to have you here this week. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. I am joined by my co-host, Elisa. Hi, Elisa.
Howdy, howdy. How are we doing?
I'm doing well. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. I love you. You look great. So festive. I'm digging it. Way to get into the spirit of things.
Thank you.
No, it's nice. I didn't realize until right now when we started the show, just 10, 15 seconds into it, that it was a catastrophically bad idea for me to wear green in front of a green screen. This is not really working. My shirt looks a little fizzy.
You're a floating head.
Yes,
right now.
Mistakes were made. This was not well thought out. Perhaps I should have alternated for a different chroma key for this week, but too late. We're in it now. You're talking to a floating head. Deal with it. Accept it.
See, this is why it's important for you podcast listeners at home to come check out the show while it's live, just so you can witness the magic and the mystery and the mayhem.
Streaming is a whole other beast, and we're still just getting the hang of it. But Elisa, I'm throwing myself into this world for the first time in my life. This past weekend, I streamed my first video game on this channel.
Aww.
I know this is well-trodden ground for you. You stream a lot of games. You're a big Rocksmith streamer. You got a cool community of your own. But I gotta say, I see now why you love this so much.
It's fun,
really
right?
Fun. It's so much fun.
You're just hanging out. It's basically like if it's for every sort of lapsed theater kid, it's a great opportunity for us to feel heard in a world where somehow we feel like we need to be, and Twitch gives us that platform. So it's great
to feed that insatiable appetite for attention that every theater kid is burdened with, and the rest of us just start podcasts. And host them with their friends. All right. This is so great. I appreciate you bringing me into this community. I want to do more of these video game streams. I think it's a cool way to just further kind of spread the message of this show outside of just the traditional podcast setting, to do other things too. And so I know it's going to be the first of a lot of these streams. I'm really excited about it. And speaking of things I'm excited about, Elisa, boy, oh boy, what a great show do we have. We're going to be talking later with Mark Parkside Renault. He is the president of Hidden Pony Records and Management, one of Canada's top music managers. He's just helped so many people get so many Juno Awards. And if you're north of the border, you know that's a big deal. But he's super cool. A lot of bands that we really liked growing up, this guy was all about that life. He's a really, really excellent dude. And I can't wait to talk. He's got so many cool things that he's expertise on. The stuff that he does to promote his clients during the pandemic is really inspiring. His philosophies on record deals and record labels definitely fits with our show's philosophy. So there's a lot to like there. But he's coming up in the next segment. Before that, though, Elisa, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that I've been waiting to talk to you specifically about this story, because I know, you already look frightened. No, I want to talk to you about this because this fits into your expertise so well. This is something you study, that you've written books and articles and speak about with great regularity.
He thinks I published.
I mean, blogs and no. You have have you not been in chapters of books?
I have been. That's true. I have been in an edited volume, and for some reason, I do get download reports of my dissertation, and for some reason, people have read it. So, yeah.
We will not countenance any Dr. Elisa Melendez putting down of herself around here. All right. We are dealing with an expert, particularly on this subject, and I'm excited to get your insight. So an article came out in the 45 this past week by Janessa Williams titled, "How Many Studies into Music's Gender Imbalance Need to Happen Before Things Change?"
Oh,
yeah.
It's not the studies, it's the people in power that need to actually care.
Yeah, about that. Because yes, as you might have expected, Doctor, we have yet another study that has come out that says that there's a really big gender imbalance problem in this industry. Recent USC study that analyzed all of the albums that made the Billboard 200 in 2020. A sample size of about 1,000, over 200, no, I think it's like over 1,200 albums, something like that. And of all those albums that made the Billboard 200 in 2020, only 20% of those albums were performed by women, none from non-binary acts. Only 2% of the entries were all women bands. And now when you get to the production side of it, it's even more depressing. Only 2.6% of the producers are female, and only about 9 of the 1,291 producers represented were women in color. And the article goes into a lot about sort of what she thinks are kind of the sources of this, and a lot of the usual suspects get brought up, going all the way back to childhood. We sort of guide women towards certain career or certain aspects of music that are more conducive to achieving industry success, and we guide men more to that side, and we guide women away from some of those sectors. We might be more compelled to having young boys learning guitar and maybe having girls learning the flute or something like that. A lot of those different things are kicked around, but rather than sort of deal with what this article said or deal with speculation, I want to, lean on an expert here and, give you some chance to talk about this a little bit with me.
It's annoying because I feel like every time this comes up, it feels like we can't get past the like women's studies 101 barrier on a lot of things. Where I sit, we are complicating gender. We know that, sex is not gender, is not sexuality, is not even, performance of said gender. And yet, these are still concepts that I feel like sometimes have still not necessarily trickled down to sort of mainstream acceptance, which means that it's hard to try to make change in a society that thinks that because we get free drinks on ladies' night, that's somehow feminism and equality. And that is not the stuff that needs to change. It's the folks that think that, like, well, maybe if we just throw a couple more gramophones at some ladies, that's going to fix the problem. And it's the same people that think that we're just going to make more categories of the Grammys instead of actually looking in the mirror and figuring out why we don't have representation in major categories. Folks don't want to look in the mirror and see themselves as a potential problem. And that is why folks refuse to change, because the people in power are really like, oh, Diane Warren's great. She's doing fine, but what's the problem? It's like, we did a Lilith Fair happen. That was cute once, right? We had ladies being represented to take your cookie, lady, and sit down. Be happy, and we can't get past that. We can't get past the fact that folks with the ability to make this kind of change don't even want to see that there is an issue in the first place. The fact that I don't know if Crimson could go out today in 2021 and play with another band that has a woman in it without the flyer or the promoter or somebody trying to call it like a women in rock night or like a chicks rock night. Like, I feel like that would still happen because it's still somehow cute. It's still somehow a novelty. It's still women being called to the table to talk about their experiences about being women and not about being musicians. And this is one of the reasons why I did my dissertation titled, "For Those About to Rock, Gender Codes in the Rock Music, Video Games, Rock Band, and Rocksmith." Not that I have the PDF pulled up, but but it's the idea that it's not only the industry itself, but it's the places where folks could seek that inspiration in the first place to join the music industry where it's lacking. So for my dissertation, I looked specifically at the video games Guitar Hero and rather Rock Band and Rocksmith. But Guitar Hero is sort of listed as one of those games that it's an example of a form of media. And this is true across, TV, movies, the music we listen to, the guitar magazines, that we read and who's in the advertisements for those and how are they depicted. Yay, there's a woman on a, in a guitar amp bad, but is she straddling it and not actually playing a guitar, So like it's these questions of where we are seeing this representation, what kind of representation do we have? The women that are already in there, because then we try to think like, oh my God, there's no women. They don't exist. Oh my God, this is a problem. Whereas it's also that there are women that have been in there and have been doing this for decades that are not being put in the positions of power to make change. So not only do we need to get more women in the industry, but we have to work at keeping the women that we do already have and empowering those women to then extend the ladder downward. Because if we're burning ourselves out, then we can't welcome in a next generation of folks. We can't inspire the next Crimson if we burn ourselves out trying to fight this hard for stuff. So if you give me 5 hours, then maybe I could get to the root of it. But it's well, it's very frustrating.
I'm glad that you brought up positions of power, because in preparation for this, I wanted to see not just how things looked on the creative side, but see if we were seeing something similar on the industry side. And of course we are. Only about 15% of major label CEOs are female, according to Rolling Stone. And, in terms of it being a crisis of opportunity for women, not getting the opportunity to have the spotlight in the industry and, get your name and get your views out there. I looked at a 2018 study that was actually done by somebody I talk about on this podcast all the time. I'm a big fan of, Sherry Hu. Basically, she looked at years worth of music industry panels and found that only 27% of speakers at music industry conference panels are female. And depending on what the panel topic is, the disparity can get a lot worse. So for example, panels that talk about things like live venues or music hardware, the disparity is much lower, like less than 10%. And where you see something closer to gender parity is in topics like PR and music supervision. But so it's not just a creative issue, and it's not just an issue at the top, but you would imagine that, and you can probably speak to this a little more, that these music conferences are sort of a proving ground, right? It's where you find the next CEO, because this is where they get opportunities to network and meet people in the industry and establish themselves. And if they're getting, barely a quarter of the seats on those panels, those are opportunities missed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if, the music industry sort of works in the kind of same kind of symbiotic kind of machinations as the game industry does. But one of the big sort of things in terms of at least sort of diversity in the video game industry is the fact that you don't sort of see that representation up at the top. Even things like access to these spaces, being able to get a media badge to go to a conference, or being able to, work for a company that can sponsor your trip, over to that conference in order to speak. That is a huge sort of barrier to access as well, because what'll end up happening is, and then of course, this is a whole other thing, is the idea that you are supposed to get your networking done. That doesn't happen necessarily at the event itself. It happens at the after hours. And at the after hours, you are more likely then to have more of these sort of insular packs where the clique is going to invite people, to the rooftop lounge, only the folks that they know. And if you keep only approaching the folks that you know, then it's going to be homogenous as hell. And you're not opening yourself up to new opportunities. Not to mention that as a woman going to events like these, I have felt unsafe to be able to network in an opportunity where there is a certain expectation. There's alcohol, there's dances. There some of the industry parties when I was first starting out, you would not be able to look at today and they would not pass muster. Some of these things have not aged well, my guy. Wow. And I cannot, I have to think that it's sort of the same way in a bunch of these different industries, where it's like the environment where the business is supposed to be taking place is not even welcoming for folks. So it's like if we're not, building these environments for different people to be able to have access to and then thrive within them, then we're going to be seeing a lot of the same people, and it's just going to be a revolving door of folks. And then it's going to be more of like, shoot, we need a woman. Who do we get?
Yeah.
And it's a whole lot of that, instead of like, hey, why don't we actively seek out a big wide net of people that are amazing and make sure that we are making things welcome for folks to want to participate and feel welcome participating in this industry. So
I mean, that point of it being active and being active about that is so. By the way, I saw one of the commenters wrote, "Give Elisa 5 hours to talk about this." Yeah, see, there it is. Yes, Zach Sloan, one of my favorite people, just wrote,
girl,
"Give her 5 hours."
I've already
Absolutely.
taken 20 minutes and we haven't even talked Grammys, and that's like,
well,
whoa.
Grammys, it'll be there. But I want to get to a point that you said about having to be assertive about this. I remember I once interviewed an artist on this program, a terrific female artist named Rory Kelly, and she used the phrase being purposefully inclusive when talking about, you can't just say, oh, we're not going to discriminate, or, we'll take the best, people we can get in. And if those are women, then so be it. You have to understand that there are barriers that exist that are sort of keeping women away from you in terms of getting these opportunities, and find ways to overcome them. So in the microest of micro examples, this podcast and the guests that we pick, and I'm the first to admit we have a gender imbalance on the guests we've brought on this program the past 5 years. It's something I've tried to be mindful of and overcome it and be more purposefully inclusive about finding women, because part of the issue is many of the guests that come on this program come via publicists. Many of the artists, that publicists are pitching are skewing male. So if I want to achieve some measure of gender parity, I have to be purposefully inclusive. I can't just let the publicists bring people to me. I have to go out and find, excellent, outstanding women who aren't being given the voice because of the way this industry is set up. And, it's something that I'm really trying to do, particularly with this live stream. We got actually a lot of great guests coming up in April that I think are going to fit the bill here. One of my favorite publicists out there, Ariel Hyatt's going to be coming on the show soon, and she's absolutely tremendous. You're gonna adore her, Elisa, and plenty more fantastic women coming up in April. That is going to be my attempt at being purposefully inclusive, understanding that at this point I still suck at it and I need to get better. But we all do, because as you said, like way in the beginning of what has just been gold that you've been spinning this whole segment, Elisa, is you also talked about that we all have to look inward. We can't just all say this is a problem without admitting our role in perpetuating the problem. And, in my micro level, I'm perpetuating the problem with my own gender imbalance on the guests I bring on. And, people who organize conferences, people, giving people opportunities in music studios, or making sure that, if you're a music teacher, making sure that you're encouraging women to take up the right, instruments that they want at a young age. We all have a role to play. And as long as we're saying there's a problem, but I have nothing to do with it, I'm on the good side, that's not good enough.
Yep. And even find ways where you can maybe like, and this isn't you, Ryan. This is the royal you. The royal you. If you can find the time to be like brave for 2 seconds, because the amount of discomfort you might feel at doing this far outweighs everything that a lot of folks like us have had to deal with, do the uncomfortable thing and be like, hey, how much would it be for me to either bring my awesome colleague along who I know can speak to this better, and replace me on this seat, or, I demand that another seat be added. Like if you are, extend a ladder down and kind of be a part of that change, if you can kind of, spare that moment, and maybe, be the kind of person that is like, hey, this panel's looking a little pale. Maybe we should fix that. And being the, the person that speaks up about it, so that we don't always have to be the folks speaking up about it. And then we end up being like, well, they're being hysterical. They think it's a problem. And it's easy to sort of put it on the folks that are complaining and that are, the most affected by it. Instead of being like, no. Actually, this does kind of suck, and we should probably fix it. And we need more folks doing that thing. That would be great. And like be the promoter, that books like 3 women bands, 3 bands that feature women, and don't call it a chick rock night. Like, do the bare minimum. You know what I mean? Like,
viewers, listeners,
and that's not even being done. So like,
Elisa's bringing it. Like, and if you want more where this came from, before we talk about the Grammys, Elisa, can you tell them a little bit about your Patreon, about the content you got coming out? Because, like, speaking of empowering excellent women in music, I mean, tell the people what you got for them.
So actually, it is. Thank you very much for the auspicious timing. That I just announced what the new video was going to be on my Patreon at patreon.com/ElisaRockDoc. That is ElisaRockDoc. And that is on my YouTube page. I do silly overthinking music videos where I do kind of real-time reactions and interpretations of lyrics in a way to analyze them and hopefully make you think about the songs you already love a little bit differently. And the next video that I'm going to put out, it will be live for patrons on Friday, but for everybody else on next Music Monday, I'm going to make that a thing. It is going to be a counter of the amount of times that Missing You is uttered in the song Missing You by John Waite. And I'm very, very excited because that is one of my favorite trivia questions in music. So I wanted to answer that definitively in my own way.
That's like a licks to the center of the Tootsie Pop kind of question. That's groundbreaking. I love it. Okay, we got Mike Parkside Renault coming up next, but I got to get a little bit of Grammys from you. I will confess, I did not watch it, but to be fair, I looked at the ratings, so neither did America.
True.
But I did watch some of the performances, but I'm hoping you can give us some of your favorite nuggets from the Grammys.
All right. So really quick before the commercial break, sort of rapid fire Grammys. One, this is probably the best Grammys. It's a shame that people didn't actually watch this one. This may have been the best Grammys telecast in recent memory, and I feel like people have been really hitting it on the head when they said that they just focused on music and the people who make it and the performances, and that was it. It was like no big sort of like, oh my God, these 2 people are performing together, the drama. Everything was tasteful. It's like when it was like, it's almost like they Coco Chanel'd it, everything about glitz and glamour about an award show. Before they walked out the door, they actually took off several accessories and they said, we are going to go back to basics. They had this beautiful theater in the round concept with different stages with each of the bands featured throughout the night. And they were basically playing in a room to each other. And you got to see musicians vibing with other musicians. And as a musician who has not been able to do that for a year, that was a huge emotional experience just to see other musicians vibing with other people in the same room. And the focus was on that and then giving out awards. And that was it. And the performances were great. The tributes were tasteful and not super gimmicky. It was a fantastic show, and kudos to them. And the only complaint I have is the showrunner who put Bill Burr to announce the Latin Music Awards in the telecast. I don't blame him, although I blame him a little bit. I do not blame him. I just think that is the crappiest show running you could have ever done. And I say that as somebody who has done some crappy show running in her day. So I'm speaking from experience. That is not a mistake I would have made. Man. Like, damn.
You were putting out so much energy on our friend text chain when that Bill Burr thing came out. We could have hooked that text chain up to a turbine and powered Las Vegas. You were like, Bill Burr, what is this?
Because here's the thing, from a show running perspective,
Yeah.
it made no sense for him to be doing any other award than like a grouping of like comedy and spoken word and narration stuff. That would have been perfect.
Yeah.
And then you get the person who is a member of the actual community, and B, can speak the language and pronounce these folks' names with respect after they've worked so hard to get here. Maybe you get the person who could do that to announce those awards instead of the person who didn't. And then instead of, blaming himself, for not doing the best in a bad situation, preemptively blamed feminists for the conversation that we're currently having now, thus enabling him to hopefully make more money on his eventual canceled tour. Congratulations.
So what you're saying is your theory on this for the nominations of the pre-telecast awards is, instead of actually being mindful of like who they had doing each category, they just took all the presenters and all the categories and just went like shuffle. Or yeah, they had one of those bingo machines with like the numbers that.
It was one of those like band name generators, it's like, okay, so like it's the first syllable of the first name of the first nominee plus, and then that is the person who reads
best
the category.
Heavy metal album, Betty White. All right.
Hey, we'll do that.
See,
that's the thing. That would be an
that'd
inspired
be so good.
choice. That is an inspired choice. That is juxtaposition. I like it. I embrace it. And I feel like Betty White would be able to roll with that
She'd
pretty
crush
well.
it.
I'm just saying. And that's the thing. It's like, I would feel awful if I was put in that situation, trying to say things in, on the spot like that super sucks. Who didn't put phonetic spellings on the cards for things? Yeah. They do that at my graduation, and they, and they do better going through like 3,000 students than the, like, this is what I'm saying. Just like, and it's the idea that like, this amount of care, which is this much, wasn't exacted. You know what I mean? And then it's sort of like things like that make you start to feel like you're not a priority. And then those are the little microaggressions that tend to trickle down and make you feel like a butt trying to do your thing in the music industry when this is the thanks you get for it. Know what I mean? Not a great feeling. Not a great feeling. Well. And hence why it is that we are seeing a lack of representation, because it's just little paper cuts like that just kind of ruin it for a lot of folks. And on that note,
well, and look, Elisa, I gotta say, I know it's not easy to like just bear all that stuff out and to have to like relive what I'm sure, insight that's not just forged by the amazing research that you've done into this subject area as part of your doctoral study, but just from your lived experience. And I know you're like dredging it all up for this, and I appreciate it. I value it. Thank you.
Man, I'm an elder millennial. I've been around for a second.
Okay. We're gonna take two, and then we're coming back with Mike Parkside Renault, and we got some fun and games. Don't go anywhere. Break the business back in 2 minutes.
Ow!
Ryan Kairalla here. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you're getting a lot out of it. I do what I do because I care about creators like you. A lot. I've dedicated my career to helping creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations move forward. I do it by hosting this program, and I'm also proud to do it in my legal practice. If you're a creative professional looking for solutions-oriented legal services to help you further your goals, I'd love to help. My firm RKPA does contracts, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Visit rkpalaw.com to learn more. That's rkpalaw.com. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. One of my favorite things about sitting during the commercial break is watching Elisa, because the way that the software works for this streaming platform, and she's still dancing, that's great. The way the software works in the streaming platform is, even though we're seeing the main picture of, even though we're seeing just the commercial break, we'll be back in 2 minutes placard, I can still see everybody's window of all the people like producing the show, like Lauren, and we got Parkside waiting in the wings coming in just a second. And so I can watch everybody as they're listening to the commercial break. And every time the ad for just asking people to follow the podcast goes, you can email the host, that's me, Elisa always giggles 100% of the time.
It's delightful.
She loves that part.
It's so full. You're like Butters. You're like Butters. That's me.
That's me. Okay, so now speaking of production, Lauren, our producer on this show, Lauren, I noticed that in the show logos, you took the time to find a 4-leaf clover logo. And I don't think you were able to post it in the first half. There it is. Okay, much better. But because I messed something up with the overlays. But yes, let's get that in there right now. It's St. Patrick's Day. Let's be a little bit festive here. And speaking of things to celebrate, let's go ahead and bring on our guest this week. He is the president of Hidden Pony Records and Management. You can find out more about his work by visiting hiddenpony.ca. Mike Parkside Renault here on Break the Business. Hi, Mike.
Hi, thanks so much for having me tonight. And I was enthralled by the previous discussion about female underrepresentation. And I was hoping I might add to that conversation as your white male cis guest today.
Go right on it.
Is that possible? I want to say that one of the most fabulous producers I've ever worked with is a woman named Karen Kozowski in Nashville. And she produced and co-wrote a song for our very muscly country artist named Ryan Langdon. And the song is called Lit in the Sticks, a really bro-y kind of over-the-top rock and roll fun track. And Karen is doing so well in Nashville that she was just on the Grammy Awards as the band leader to Mickey Guyton.
Yes! Great performance.
She was the band leader. And if you're more than welcome, I'd be more than welcome to pass her contact info. She's a fascinating person. And she would be an amazing guest from the production side of things.
Yes.
This is how you do it, folks. This is exactly how you do it.
I'd like to also say that, one of my biggest clients is a band called The Dirty Nil, and it's 3 white guys from my hometown of Hamilton. And we've been very fortunate to tour with a variety of interesting artists that I think have had a profound impact on how we view the world, including, War on Women, who we toured with Flag. And also we did a couple tours with Against Me. And Laura Jane was gracious enough to be on Luke's podcast. And that's a fascinating interview about songwriting and Laura's acoustic record that she did. And so I'll say this, like when I first got in the business in the mid 90s, I remember conversations when Alanis was big that, we have our one female on the radio. And so there's no room, even in the era of Lilith Fair. And I guess I am encouraged by the fact that there are quite a few strong female performers that are doing well across different genres and are getting a lot of support. I know behind the scenes, there's a long way to go. And I purposely avoid taking spots on boards that could go to someone maybe that would help with a better representation. If I can bring something that is uniquely of value, then I'll consider it. But otherwise, if I can do the same thing that someone else can do, there's no reason for me to be there because there's other people doing that already there. So those are some of the things, just personally from my point of view, that I like to do. I have had employed women in long-term positions in my company, people of color, and in a weird kind of way, I've never thought about it, and I'm kind of proud of that. So there's a whole bunch of us that can do way better. And if, I've been here since the mid 90s, so been through a lot of stuff, a lot of movements, a lot of technical changes, and there's just no room for any of that type of behavior anymore, not just in our industry, but in our society. So that's what we got to do. So there you go. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and thank you. And I think it's important for folks to do like a couple of things, and one of them is to, in your career, when you think about where your trajectory of your industry career should go, I think folks just think about more accolades, more this, more that, and you turning down seats is suggesting a way of thinking that is better, and that is not thinking about more, but about making this industry that I love better. Mm-hmm. And maybe that doesn't mean me taking up more space. Maybe that means me taking up less space and giving it to other folks that can make the industry better. So I think that's a mentality that I think is fantastic. And sharing space, like there is like legitimately plenty of space for everybody. Like people can like different kinds of music. Like it's okay for you to like more than one woman in rock. Like it's okay. You know what I mean?
Listen, and beyond it being the right thing to do, it's a great business decision to understand as many different types of people and cultures and point of views as you can, because you're ultimately, in developing artists in the way that I have, you're trying to find their authentic voice and help them find a community. And if you don't understand multiple communities, then you're doing things one way. And in this day and age, that's not going to work. So for me, I like to listen a lot. I also am very aggressive when I get, my mind set on something. But I need the challenge of people in my universe challenging my strong opinions, debating me, so we can get to really creative ideas, unlocking things that might help us with an artist, take them to the next level. So I don't want just a bunch of me's around telling me what I already know, you know? So
has your thinking on this subject, which is, I mean, not to substitute my judgment for Elise's on this particular subject, but you're pretty darn enlightened about this, which I definitely appreciate. But have your views on this sort of always been there for as long as you can remember, or has there been kind of an evolution as you've listened to more of the discourse on this subject?
I would say that I always inherently, even younger, I made mistakes as a young man in your teens. In the time that I was a teen, the 80s, late 80s was early 90s was a different world. And you definitely have been hyper reflective about those periods of time and those kind of mistakes and learning from them. I'd say that throughout my more adulthood, I've tried to be as respectful as I possibly can. I've never viewed the business as a place to mix, even though I've dated people in the business and I've dated not people in the business, but it wasn't a social thing for me. If that took place, it was something that grew out of a meeting at a late night party. That's not where that took place. It was, okay, maybe we met there but there were so many people being sort of predatory. I always wanted to take the opposite approach and just be like the cool guy and not be that way. There's so much of that around. And I kind of also, like, if that was enticing to you, then I don't think that we would have gotten along. So for me, it wasn't an enticing situation, from that point of view. I don't know if that makes sense. I certainly say that when my daughter was born, I think that was, it accelerated my views, and she's taught me more about everything in life, from social issues. And she's 14. And she's taught me more about the hierarchy of BIPOC issues and transgendered issues and all sorts of stuff. And it's fascinating. And thankfully, she's patient with me and allows me to ask questions that maybe might seem slightly insensitive to someone who you weren't close to, but allow me to learn and so I'm not making that mistake when I get to that person.
Yep.
Right. So that when I get there, so I'm not perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes, and all I'm trying to do is, just make things cool for everybody. Like, that's it.
This is really great insight, Parkside. Lisa, can I be real with you? I got a problem. All right. Because Parkside's dropped some gems here. Like this is a great conversation, and I didn't think that he would volunteer information on this, and it's great and it's powerful and it keeps the conversational thread going, which I appreciate. Here's the problem, all right? I have questions for Parkside, and the first question I have is like a really
What's it like
silly...
being a woman in the industry?
That's right. It's exactly right. No, the first question I have for him is like a really silly, stupid question, and there's no way for me to transition.
Let's just do it.
From what we just did.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay, how about this? What's the first question?
What's
Let
the
me
first
ask
question?
Yeah, there you go.
Just let me ask it.
Do you want me to send you the question in the chat and you can
send me the question. Send me the question.
But keep in mind, whatever gets sent to you, you have to ask.
Send me the question. Send me the question.
Okay. All right. It's coming in the chat. And Lauren,
this is good.
Oh goodness. Well,
I'm building a portfolio for hosting. So go ahead and throw me all sorts of silliness so that I can
be careful what you wish for, Lisa.
Oh,
that's a key question.
Well, I forgot he can see the questions too. All right.
Go
ahead, Lisa. I'm stepping back. All you.
So thank you so much for your insight, and you have been around and you have seen the growth of so many bands, and you've been around through all sorts of different changes in the industry, up to and including this awesome era of music that I know has been seeing a revival lately. I've seen it on TikTok. Everybody is super into pop punk and emo nowadays, and you have managed a bunch of legendary bands, up to and including Sum 41, who I absolutely love. Pain for Pleasure is one of my pleasures personally. So important question, and I'm fully placing the square on the shoulders of our fearless leader Ryan here. He wants to know more than anything, because he's been trying to do this for years now. How long did it take Derek Whibley to get his hair just like that?
Well,
there we go. There he is.
Yeah, honestly, not that long. But I just to make a correction, I did not manage them, but I was their Canadian A&R person at their label at Aquarius, and functionally, I was probably just their friend. I was around the same age. They had a legendary A&R person out of the United States called Rob Stevenson, who was the main person, but we wound up with the band in Canada because they wanted to be on an indie label, and we were sort of there before everyone, before a bidding war. Ooh. And so I was there from the beginning until about after Chuck, I think, came out. And so I definitely saw them from a point where they were playing to nobody to the MTV 20th anniversary show and all that kind of stuff. And a funny story about Pain for Pleasure, since you brought it up. I was in Montreal at the time. That's where our label was. And so we had in Montreal Musique Plus, which was French MTV, basically. And so I was dispatched to go take Fat Lip Pain for Pleasure video down there and play it for the head programmer and tell him what was going on, because now, Half Hour Power had come out. This was a big deal. Fat Lip was going to radio, and this was going to be a big hit. And he wanted me to edit out Pain for Pleasure at the end. Yeah. And by the time I had turned around, like, let's say it was going to take me, because it's not like today where I could do it in 10 seconds and send it over. It was like you had to take the beta tape and go to an editor and get it cut up and then take back the beta tape, right? It was like an analog process. So maybe that took me 2 days. By the time I got there, it had taken off so quick that he just started playing the one with the ending, right? Because he had to. It was like one of the best parts of the video.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But they got a lot of respect for bringing in like the metal side of things to pop punk, because no one was really kind of doing it. And I remember, they did that Spider-Man song for the movie with Kerry King from Slayer.
Yes.
And they did a song
about that.
Yeah. And then they did a song with Iggy Pop. and they had a lot of respect from that community because that community had suffered a little bit from the grunge era. It's not, that they were hair bands necessarily, but just even the whole kind of metal community kind of got shoved down there a little bit at the time. So they had a lot of fans. I remember going to Vegas and we saw Anthrax and Judas Priest with Ripper as a singer, and all those bands loved them. When we after the show would, the super endeared to that whole community. So it was a lot of fun. And I'm still pretty close with Dave Brownsound. He's the godfather to my daughter. And I saw Steve-O in Palm Springs a few years ago and had dinner with him. And I see Cone a lot. And I did see Derek, I'm going to say the December before COVID, the Dirty Nail opened for Sum 41 in Buffalo at a radio show. So I got to reunite and say hi to Derek after 20 some odd years of not seeing him. So it was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's in great shape. He looked awesome. The band was incredible. They're totally at the top of their game again. And it's really nice to see after, the public troubles that Derek had, that he's got it together, and they're amazing. Their live show is incredible.
I gave you two nothing on that exchange because I've just spent the last 6 minutes just mesmerized by Derek Whibley's hair.
It's good hair.
I mean,
It's good hair.
It's magnificent.
That's how I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got sort of some Whibley-esque altitude there, Elisa. It's coming
I'm
together.
trying. I turned 35, had an existential crisis, and it was during quarantine. So you know what happens when all of that combines with a pair of scissors. So now I'm having my own hair journey. So I'm trying. It's growing out.
All right. I want to talk to Mike while we have him here about recording agreements. So a little bit of background about the whole break the business philosophy. We have around here what I'd like to call we'll call it a healthy skepticism of traditional record label models. I wrote a book a few years ago also called Break the Business, where I sort of point out some of the dangers of conventional record deals. And among the things that we talk about in the book is the fact that a lot of people who sign these deals don't actually own the works that they create. I think one of the things that was pretty groundbreaking about Taylor Swift winning Album of the Year last week was actually, I think it was her third time winning Album of the Year, and the first time where she actually owned the masters that won Album of the Year because of the previous record deals that she was under. And I know you've spoken a little bit in the past about some qualms you've had about the traditional label model, and you've talked a bit about sort of what you think could be the future of recording agreements, a future that could be more equitable to artists. Can you reflect a bit on that?
Sure. I mean, I definitely think that there's aspects of major label deals that are important at a certain level of your career. I mean, you just can't scale the world without a coordinated network and the amount of money that they're willing to put into your career. Because, I mean, streaming and social media, it's not a voodoo. It's not a space that really lends itself to moments of virality anymore. It's really, you grind your fan base and then you have the right to pay to speak to them. And then hopefully you can speak to other people outside of them and bring them in. So then you can then pay to speak to more people. It doesn't really feel like an equitable system to me. So I'm in a fortunate position in Canada that we have an insane amount of government funding for the arts. And because of our track record, and there's a lot of companies that do better than we do in this regard, we're able to develop artists in a different kind of way up here. So I take the philosophy of a manager, but I'm really content creator. I teach my artists to think like television, and that was prior to COVID. We're really broadcasting to the world while we're doing local physical events wherever we are, but we're still broadcasting to the world. And that was a philosophy that came out of us being frustrated that rock music wasn't streaming in these ecosystems. And we were like, why did that happen? And we traced it back, and it was evident, the rock audience didn't mature through the technological advancements of Napster, fought social media. Rock bands are always the one that are hardest to figure out how to do Instagram and how to do now TikTok, and nobody wants to do the new one. And it's just actually just a change in a frame of mind on where to start, how to do it in a way that's really natural and unburdened and not frightful. And, we looked at EDM and hip hop artists with the Dirty Nil, and we were like, okay, well, why are they doing so well? They're broadcasting 24 hours a day, and their lifestyle looks like rock and roll. It's pyro, and it's hot people, and it's drugs, and it's sex, and it's sweaty, and it's all the things that rock and roll used to be. And then you go to see a rock and roll live stream, and you can't even like get a band to play like electric on a live stream because it doesn't sound good. So we just sent, we took one person off the road, and we put someone filming 24 hours a day. And after every show, we would do a 1 minute recap the next day for everyone of what we were doing on the road. And we just started broadcasting 24 hours a day. And I'm able to provide a different type of record contract because of this funding. And because of the way that I work and the way that I think, I'm a manager, and I have a record label, and I have a record label infrastructure that I use to grow my artists. And my philosophy is that I want to grow them to a point that when I need a major label, I don't have to do things that will get me in trouble down the road, like give up masters, or if I'm going to give up the leverage. Or if I'm going to give them up, then I'm going to get the kind of money that someone's not going to care in 20 years from now that they gave up their masters, right? I mean, that's their personal decision as to what they want to do. And now we have everybody selling their, publishing for big numbers to different companies. And that's, I think, just a natural progression of the rights management and the amount of bands that are and artists that are older now and how much success they had. And they want to cash in now because the older and the younger bands are trying to fight through the system. And it's a really tough time right now. I wouldn't out of the gate sign an artist necessarily to a major label deal unless it was malleable and unless there were things in there that would prevent us from getting locked in if it didn't meet certain criteria. I mean, one thing I'd always used to negotiate when I was dealing with bigger companies on a tour support level was I'd say, okay, look, you're going to give us up to this much. Let's say it's 50 grand. But if I need more than that, then you'll get a piece of the touring. But if I can keep my costs down under 50 grand, then we get to keep that revenue stream, right? So I'm working with you as a partner. If I need that money to take this to the next level, I'm going to come get it and I'm going to give you your stream. I don't care because at that point you're investing and it's worthwhile for me to give it to you. But if I can go out there and save everybody money and get the momentum going, then I need an advantage there, right? And most people, you figure out what the number threshold is and it works out, right? And then that puts the onus on us to be good partners in those situations. And I think that most of the time when people get to a place with Taylor, it's because people aren't good partners anymore, right? So anyway.
No, and I think it's kind of interesting because I think also from your perspective, it kind of makes it so that you have to be maybe more creative with some of the ways that you promote, and sometimes having that kind of creativity through budgetary restrictions is oftentimes where a lot of innovation ends up happening. Folks figuring out how to promote themselves, doing silly stuff and charging money for it because it's like, well, we don't mind being silly on camera, and if people are going to pay us to do this or whatever, screw it, fine. So it's the people who figure out kind of authentic ways to display themselves relatively cheaply that usually ends up paying off in the long run.
You're absolutely right. And authentic was the right word. I mean, you can be silly, and if you're like, if what you're emitting is endearing and charming, in that moment, then people are usually it involves a dog or a baby, right? And then all of a sudden, everyone's there. I have an artist named Theo Tams who kind of struck gold on TikTok because he's a Great Dane who nuzzles up in here when he sings. Aww. So he did one, and then all of a sudden popped off 1 million views and 50,000 followers in a month because the Great Dane, exactly. It just sounds good, right?
It does.
Yeah.
I want that all over my For You page.
That's adorable.
You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting hiddenpony.ca. Parkside here joining us, talking about the future of recording agreements, giving us some gems about female underrepresentation in music. Super unexpected and outstanding. I was going to ask him the final question, Elisa, but do you want to take this one? I feel like you'll knock it out of the park.
Oh, sure. Ooh, okay. Hold on. I'm going to do my best, Ryan.
No. I'm going to regret this.
Here at Break the Business, we like to empower indie creators. So for the final question, I always like to ask, what advice do you have to empower the indie creators that might be listening to us in order for them to get ahead in their own careers?
Like, how did she do, Ryan? Good? That was good, right?
Oh God, it hurts so much.
Yeah, he can't even
She
recover
looked
from
into
that.
my soul, Mike.
I love it.
I feel so vulnerable. Oh my God. The cadence, like just raw.
It was really good. That was really, really good.
I
give
have
you props
known
for
you
that.
since the previous millennia, my dude.
Amazing. That's incredible.
Uh,
What was the question again? No, I'm just sorry.
What advice do you have for indie creators listening and watching at home?
Oh my God. Well, listen, what's my best advice? Try to figure out how to do as much as you can on your own. Like, and if you can't, then try and find a friend who's really good at the stuff you don't know how to do. Like, and especially if it's someone who has video skills or graphic design skills, because then you can really workshop your brand and you can work things. And, you know, I know that sounds like a bad word, brand, but I'll tell you, it really, when you dive into it, it's not so scary, and it really helps you focus on what you want to say and what the exaggerated parts of your personality that you're going to give to the world and what you're going to keep behind for yourself. So I think just like try and figure out how to do as much as you can for yourself as long as possible. And then when you get to that record deal, that scary record deal, you'll be in a good spot.
Mike, you've been absolutely tremendous. Thank you so much for tolerating our craziness. You know,
No, that's
normally
great.
this is where we send the guest out, but let me ask, do you happen to be like a movie guy at all? Do you like watching movies?
I have movie narcolepsy. Like, honestly, I work so much that the second I put a movie on, I'm literally asleep in about 30 seconds. In a movie theater, doesn't matter where I am.
Really?
So, I love movies, but if you want to ask me the first 2 minutes of any movie, I can. That's about as far as it goes.
Well, I mean, you can duck
Let's
out
try.
if
Let's try.
if you like, but no. But here's why I ask. Okay, you know, we'll keep you around here for this because
I'm
you know, and
frightened.
we're like way over our time on this, but I don't care because I've been wanting to do this segment
Sir,
the whole show.
Ryan,
So-
best practices indicate that Twitch rewards higher uptime for discoverability, so you're fine. You're good.
All right, so then this is for the uptime. Then we're gonna supersize it this week. All right, so the Oscars have been announced, right? And hang on. So everybody's talking about the Oscars these days,
Oh, I love this.
and I have fallen in love with the TikTok account at My Girl Ann. Are you familiar with her, Elisa?
yes,
You know who this is?
I've seen these come across my For You page, and they are excellent every time. It's great.
Okay, yeah, these are absolutely wonderful. Let me make sure that I'm sharing my screen now. I'm going to make sure that I have the audio up for this. So basically, to get Parkside clued in, what this is so My Girl Ann on TikTok, she does this thing where she uses like, you know how when you watch the Oscars, they always introduce like the best picture nominees and they always lay out this like beautiful monologue talking about this movie. And it's always makes it sound like the best movie that's ever been made. And so what My Girl Ann has figured out is that you can use this same kind of language and flow and cadence to make any movie sound spectacular. And so she's put out a bunch of TikToks where she introduces movies like they're at the Oscars, but they're pretty mediocre movies. And so I want to play a couple of these before I get into the next piece here, because like these make me laugh. All right, here we go.
Audio.
Oh, do we not have audio?
No.
Okay. And we're live. Let me try that one more time.
I thought you were going to kind of do the voice, Ryan, as if it was her, like
Okay.
Elisa did for you.
All right, take two. Oh, God, we're going to leave this all in. All right, here we go. Now you should be able to hear volume. I hope. I pray.
A young African woman
Okay.
moves to the United States and attempts to assimilate in a Midwestern school in the years leading up to the Great Economic Recession. A classic story of growing up, falling in love, and dreaming big is made poignant with a heartfelt script and performances by a fetching young ensemble cast. This is Mean Girls. A young African woman.
So good.
Oh my God. So this second one is my if it's the one I'm thinking of, is my absolute favorite. And as music people, we're all going to dig this.
A struggling artist, aging past his prime, must fight against a rigid institution that threatens his very way of life. When he finds himself trapped in a tangled web of lies, he realizes he must teach an unlikely band of young misfits how to lead the way. A radical musical about courage, luck, and finding your voice. This is School of Rock. A struggling artist.
Wow.
I love these. And so she's got a bunch of them on her TikTok, and every single one of them makes me laugh. And so because I'm a huge dork about this, I got so into these that I made a bunch of my own.
Oh,
and so
boy.
I want to play a game with you guys.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to read the overly grandiose Oscar-style movie description, and you try to tell me what movie it is. Okay. So we'll start with the first one.
Do we just jump in, or do we let you do the whole thing?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like, are we competing?
Like buzz in?
Yeah, are we
you
buzzing
buzz
in?
Okay, here are the rules. We're going to do this, or make up the rules on the fly. You can buzz in early if you think you have it, but if you are wrong, you forfeit the rest of that round. You can't try a second time.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Cool.
So
Okay,
it's like
got
a
it.
little risk-reward action here.
Okay.
Okay. Hang on, I got to do my, my best like dramatic film voice. Yeah, and the fans are clapping. All right. From the director of the gritty masterpiece Joker comes an uncompromising portrait of what happens when the best night of your life becomes a nightmare. The unforgiving desert. Oh, you got it!
Ah!
Whoa! I didn't even get to the second sentence.
Wow.
Movie narcolepsy, my butt. You are a genius at this. Wow.
I might have pool sharked you here.
We got hustled. Parkside hustled us, Elisa. So
Sorry.
can I do the rest of it? Because I put a lot of work
sorry.
in.
I got so excited. Sorry.
Yeah. The unforgiving desert sun bears down on a team of friends out of their element. We follow these men on their bizarre journey as they are running out of time to find one of their own and to find memories lost. This is The Hangover.
Wow.
Yeah, that was great. That was
Okay.
great.
So, yeah, Parkside's kicking your butt, Elisa.
Okay.
I didn't know like, he was going to bring it, that we had like the Gene Siskel of this game here. All right, here we go. Number 2, and we got 3 of these. Walt Disney Pictures brings us an emotionally charged film where we watch a successful defense lawyer fall from grace when he finds himself on the wrong side of the law. A post-Reaganomics Minnesota serves as the backdrop for this story of redemption. Our hero's journey back to greatness is an arduous one, forcing him to confront his childhood demons, connect with the wayward youth of his community, and rekindle a relationship with the game he loves. This is...
Liar, liar.
No.
Oh,
Good
I was
guess,
also
though.
going to guess liar, liar. I was totally thinking liar, liar. But
Do you need to hear it again?
Is it animated or is it live action? Give us a hint.
It's live action.
Yeah, live action. Disney.
This one's
That's a
tough.
one.
Hook?
Oh, that's a good guess. Those are both very good guesses. The answer is, this is The Mighty Ducks.
Oh, you admitted the hockey references. So that
Evan,
Of course, that
Evan is quacking furiously right now. Just furious quacks. Just furious quacks.
Okay. Oh, but I just realized that people in the chat are playing. I love this. The Shaggy team. All right. Last one. Okay. Let's all compose ourselves.
Okay.
A high-powered banking executive's life collapses around him as he is caught in a web of lies, deceit, and betrayal by those he trusted the most. Watch as a first-time director courageously paints a harrowing picture of the dark side of passion and takes us on a journey to where a bizarre love triangle brings a good person to an untimely demise. It's a film that stays with you, that you will watch again and again, and that will tear you apart. This is...
Yeah, the one with Woody Harrelson and Demi Moore and Robert Redford. And Decent Proposal.
That's a good guess, but it's not right. And
It sounds like that too.
Frankly, knowing Elisa as well as I know her, I am furious that she does not know this one. I am furious, just angry, just apoplectic. Is Evan there? Evan will get this.
No. He is exited the building on the podcast.
This is for the tie.
This is for the tie.
One
like,
more.
Elisa,
Hit me one more time. Hit me one more
I'm
time.
gonna give it to you one more time. Like, yeah, I really want this to go one more time. And I know this one's in your universe, Elisa.
Oh,
Like, you're gonna get so mad at yourself.
I'm gonna be pissed.
A high-powered banking executive's life collapses around him as he is caught in a web of lies, deceit, and betrayal by those he trusted the most. Watch as a first-time director courageously paints a harrowing picture of the dark side of passion and takes us on a journey to where a bizarre love triangle brings a good person to an untimely demise. It's a film that stays with you, that you will watch again and again, and that will tear you apart. This is...
A lot of hints in those last sentences.
I know.
Yeah.
The last 3 words, like,
Yeah, a lot of hints there.
almost bring it home.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks because like I want this to be Gremlins 2.
It's not great. No, what I feel bad for both of us because when I'm going to say what this is, and I know it's going to you're going to be upset for weeks.
Okay, wait. Hold on. Don't do it yet. Just give us the last couple sentences again.
Okay. It's a film that stays with... Okay, so I'll take it 2
Stays
seconds.
with you. It stays with you.
Watch as a first-time director courageously paints a harrowing picture of the dark side of passion and takes us on a journey to where a bizarre love triangle brings a good person to an untimely demise. It's a film that stays with you, that you will watch again and again, and that will tear you apart. This is...
The story of a girl who cried a river and drowned a whole world.
I want to guess Jaws now.
I'm going to read it one more time, and I know Elisa will get it here. It's a film that stays with you, that you will watch again and again, and that will tear you apart.
It's the room.
It's the room.
You should have added something. You should have something added about this movie hits its high mark at like come on, you gotta.
Oh, but that's good. That's
a wise first time director.
Dark side of passion. You should do that. You Are My Rose reference.
You Are My Rose. So Parkside, you're the Room fan. You should have been all over this.
I know, man. But I'm just gonna say I won 1-0. So
you did.
That's true. That's true.
Like a low scoring affair, but Parkside takes it. Oh my God!
I share it with you as an equal. I share the win with you. Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Parkside, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for being silly with us this week and for sharing so much great insight. We really appreciate you joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. And let me know if you want to talk to Karen. I'll definitely hook you up.
Let's do it, my man.
Yeah, she's awesome.
All right. Elisa, thank you for bringing it as always. This is always a joy. And thanks to the viewers and listeners. We'll see you all next week on Break the Business.